Okay, here with Jerry at Biblos Tuesday afternoon, and we're going to talk about the Russian economy and how it's been devastated by plunging oil prices, and whether this is a part of a larger plan by the West and Saudi Arabia to destroy their economy. And they're also hurting Iran and they're hurting Venezuela. Is this part of a plan to destroy the Russian economy, or is it something else? Go ahead, Jerry.
No, it's not a plan. It's just all the production coming out of the United States from fracking.
From shale.
And well, shale oil, it's called. And there's all sorts of firms piling in there that are small and in debt. But the Saudi Arabians don't feel like bailing them out by keeping the oil price high. So they're going. Saudi Arabia says we want to maintain our market share. Now, as far as the Russians go, I think about 70% of their income came from oil. So income to run for imports, income for their military, and they've lost about half of that, but they're still pumping as much oil as they can. As far as the
I noticed Standard & Poor's gave them a junk rating.
Right now, the sanctions are really starting to take hold. Because they can't borrow abroad from U.S. banks or European banks anymore. Secondly, their imports are going way down because the ruble has dropped so low. It's very costly to import, and places like Murmansk lost their big fish plant that the Norwegians used to supply fish to, and they're suffering even up there. So they're not in very good shape. Now,
but it seems that everyone who talks about their crashing economy always, first thing they mention is the plunging oil prices. But you're saying that Saudi Arabia did not do that deliberately to wreck the Russian economy in collusion with the U.S.? No?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. But they are in difficult circumstances. And
but they have a lot of reserves, right?
well, their reserves are the reserves aren't as big as they make them out to be, because a lot of them are in bonds that are hard to liquidate. Some of them is in bank accounts abroad, which is hard to get. And they've gone through half of their reserves very quickly. And they're at the rate they're going, they won't last more than a couple of months if they want to support the ruble. So that's a problem. Well, they are making some advances in diversifying. They got a truck plant that was completely revamped by some tough-minded Swede who's done it for other plants. They fired all the old communists there, and the young workers are happy to have an efficient plant that they can make good trucks and export them. And now he's doing the same thing in other industries. So, in the auto industry, that's right. They could end up making a good car, believe it or not. So they are making efforts.
Everything I hear about this from the Russian point of view is that this will last about 2 years. What do you think?
The oil price?
This catastrophe for their economy. It's a 2-year. They got to tighten their belts for 2 years before they come out of it. What do you think?
Some people disappear. Be careful. That's what I'm thinking.
Could it go longer?
Trust me, they never come out.
Well, there is talk about the oil price will start coming back in 2 years.
And that'll benefit Russia?
Yeah, that'll benefit Russia. And if they take this diversification seriously,
Make me rich. I
that's
deserve it.
important.
But doesn't look like they're going to budge on Ukraine.
I need
Well, they're
help.
not, because in
I don't need help.
Ukraine,
Like, I need help. to raise-
that's the industrial heartland. There's tremendous amount of industry there. They export all sorts of factories, they export all
Eastern
sorts
Ukraine,
of
right?
military equipment. to
Eastern Ukraine, not the West.
Russia. They're very tightly linked to them. And if they just decide to cooperate with the Ukraine, they might be better off.
But it seems like all these sanctions by the West are an effort to get them to pull out of Ukraine. But you don't think that's going to happen? Give back Crimea.
Oh, Crimea, forget about. That's a done deal.
Okay.
And well, what's happening is the U.S. is starting to is talking about supplying real military equipment, anti-tank missiles.
Well, I noticed today's headline. Merkel said no, she's not going to give them weapons.
Who?
Merkel said Germany is not
No,
going to
not
give.
Germany, but the
No,
U.S.
but
is.
Germany refused.
Yeah,
Why do you think they did that?
We both have to go. I'll come back for
Germany
you.
doesn't want
Yes,
to go
thank
to
you.
war
I
with
know that.
Russia.
Thank you. Have a good day.
They know what it's all about.
Right.
But the
So they-
U.S. is not, they're going to give them non-lethal equipment, defense equipment.
Yeah.
So an anti-tank missile is defense. Then they're going to give him zones, what do you,
No-fly zone.
no, they're giving them ways that they can find out where the Russians are firing their missiles and
Well, it's not the Russians; it's the pro-Russian separatists.
no, the Russians are using, a lot of the artillery barrages come from Russia itself.
Oh, really?
But even if they come within the Ukraine, if you can pinpoint exactly where they are, you can have a counteroffensive with your artillery.
But one thing that seems to be evident now, Jerry, is that the morale of the Ukrainian soldiers is very, very low. They're not motivated fighters, whereas the pro-Russian separatists are.
Yeah,
This
but
is
you-
making a big difference.
But you're still getting Ukrainian volunteers showing up.
But there's
That's
also a
the
lot of
puzzle.
desertions, which the Western media doesn't talk about.
Oh,
Lots of
well.
desertions.
Yeah, but they aren't being forced to go up there. I think they're volunteers.
No, I think they're also drafted. Yeah.
Well,
Whereas the pro-Russian separatists are now calling up 100,000 people who are willing, and they seem much more better motivated.
well, from another source of mine, a Russian lady who keeps almost daily contact with her sister, and went to
Where does the
school
sister
there
live?
and is a Putin fan.
Where does the sister live?
But
Where does the sister live?
in Ukraine, the area that's being bombed.
Oh, Eastern Ukraine.
Yeah, and she says that the Ukraine, the the northern part, is full of all sorts of American advisors
Oh, yeah.
and soldiers, and
I've seen the videos.
so
There are
they're
American
getting-
soldiers there.
So the Americans are in the thick of it. They're
Right.
doing everything but giving them high-powered missiles to
Right.
knock out everything.
At the same time, accusing the Russians of interfering.
That is true.
Always a
That
double
is true.
standard,
As
yeah.
one diplomat who's been there a long time says, it's not our fight. We ought to tell Russia we'll welcome them into NATO. He said that would settle it.
Welcome, Russia. I've never heard that.
Not only that, let me see, we're stopping in, are you still running?
Yeah,
I'm thinking
that's all right.
that
Well, let's go on to nothing. What do you think of Russia's deals they're making with India and Iran and China? Do you think that will pull up their
Well,
economy in a couple of years?
Well, I think the.
Or you think nothing will be able to overcome these sanctions?
Well,
falling oil prices?
they are have a big gas deal
Turkey,
that
right?
in time will give them good coverage for their gas. But as far as NATO goes, they've reinforced all the NATO countries with better weapons, with fast strike forces, particularly Estonia. And there was a joint exercise between the Finnish Air Force, the U.S. Air Force, and the NATO Air Force over Estonia, just in case the Russians decided to make a big move.
Well, of course, that's
Not
not going to
only-
happen. That's just baloney.
Not
but-
only, well, there's a piece of Estonia that's all Russian,
Yeah.
that the Russians already kidnapped some.
Yeah. But I think this is more of an excuse just to get the NATO closer to the Russian border, to threaten them.
Well, they're as close as they get now. Now they're reinforcing them.
Now, what about this? Let's finish with this. What about this propaganda? The thing, propaganda attacks that are going in the media. In fact, revisionist history. The Prime Minister of Ukraine, who's stepping down soon, but Yatsenyuk, he was in Germany with Merkel, and he said that Russia attacked Germany in World War II. What the hell is that? Is that a little bit revisionist craziness? He said Russia was the aggressor, and no one questioned him.
All right, my pleasure.
That was one. The other propaganda was that the Ukrainians liberated Auschwitz, when everybody knows it was the Russians.
Well, the Ukrainians were.
Propaganda.
Ukrainians were part of the armed guard in Auschwitz.
Exactly.
for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians hated the Jews.
Yes.
And they were Ukrainians all over the place,
Yeah.
happily.
But the Poles, who's part of the NATO and all this stuff, they said it was the Ukrainians that liberated Auschwitz, not the Russians, and they didn't invite Putin to the Auschwitz ceremony. I mean, this is just blatant lies and propaganda, isn't it?
That is a good point, that Putin was not invited.
He was not invited. Because they said it's the Ukrainians that liberated, not the Russians.
Nah,
I mean, there's footage on YouTube. You can see the Russians going in.
I think.
So they're throwing the kitchen sink at Russia, huh?
I think for Putin, that's ancient history. He doesn't
Yeah.
want to even that's ages ago.
Right. But they don't want to give them credit for anything. And they're saying they attacked Germany in World War II. They lost 27 million people.
Well, I must say,
It's crazy, isn't it?
the Russians are used to suffering.
Yes.
But the point is, they've got a movie now that about some Russian who's fighting the bureaucracy for taking away his house.
Right.
You know, the local apparatchiks
Yeah.
took it away illegally, and he goes to court, and he has a big court battle that's showing here in Washington
Yeah.
at the theater up in Chevy Chase,
Avalon. Okay.
at the Avalon.
Okay.
It's 2.5 hours.
What's it called?
It's considered very good.
What's the name of it?
Well, I call it the Leviathan, but it's got a Russian name that's different.
Okay.
So
All right. Let's leave it at that.
it's illegal to be shown in Russia, by the way.
Okay. All right. Let's leave
But
it
the
at that.
Russians will be very proud if it wins the Academy Award for a foreign film.
Okay.